experience coming from my point of view, but if you're going to Expo, you're going there for basically two reasons. You get the chance to hang out with people. You get the chance to learn. You get the chance to meet people behind the names that you know otherwise would never have the chance to meet. So I think that right there is the bonus and the benefit to, you see everybody post in the group, hey, Boscoyo has a special this week, or Crockett Fancy Lights is doing their special and so forth. And you don't see those people until you go to something like this.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. For the two main draws, there is definitely the people and the classes for sure.
Yeah, and as far as classes, I feel like Expo is still so much X lights. Like when I think of Expo, I think of X lights, and then Trans World. It's so still Halloween and slowly becoming Christmas.
What do you mean by how big were they?
In other words, as far as the interest still in the AC lighting side that you saw from the folks that were attending, is there still a draw in that, or are people really starting to shift more on?
Well, so you always have to remember that the way Lightorama built their business model and created their software and created their hardware, it was truly meant for a plug and play purpose. So when you consider that Lightorama is a huge commercial producer for commercial use, and then you turn around and you look at where the pixel industry came from, it's hard to compare the two. And obviously we've seen a huge shift in 6-7 years from one to another. And obviously, if any of you have been around for any number of years, pixels and RGB back 8 years ago was double the price it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Pixel controllers haven't gone up in price, but pixels have dropped. And it's what it's done is it's opened the gates to being able to do more with the same amount of money. So the answer to the question is, it depends on what the user wants to do. And it depends on the skill level that the user has or wants to acquire. So on the pixel side, it takes in order to become a master or understand the whole side of pixels, you have to invest a lot of time. There's not one thing that you just pick up and say, oh, I can do this. You have to learn about voltage. You have to learn about power injection. You got to learn about data flow and which pixels work with which controllers, and does this controller support this pixel brand or pixel protocol? There's so many little things, and then we throw little things in made by the community called the Raspberry Pi and the FPP, and there's so many DIY solutions that have grown from the pixel side that brought the cost down and available to many people. But where Lightorama comes in is you don't have to learn any of that, and you never did. You just ordered it. The box showed up. You plugged it in. You set a configuration in the hardware controller, and you output to lights, and bam, there you had 16 channels of AC just bopping right along. And it was simple. And it was easy to consider going to Walmart and buying the lights and just plugging them in and doing whatever you want at your house. Right. It's not as easy with pixels. So the answer to the question is yes, the life of AC lights will still live on, and the controllers will. Though the community, the people who decorate, is adjusting to it. The 100%. I mean, and look at David's board. David created a fantastic board that now brings AC into the pixel land. So now you see the addition of AC coming into pixels. So for the people who don't want to have to deal with the hard stuff from Lightorama and doing the conversions, now we're looking at something that the DIYers are going to be much more happy using versus the people who don't want to have to get complex. So LOR is always going to be viable.
I would say that there were definitely quite a few commercial-based classes at Expo this year. One of them was how to build a successful drive-through, and then Clippa had a large, presence. But yeah, it still is primarily DIY, but there was some commercial definitely there. And in regards to LOR, even LOR AC or Pixels, there was still a large amount of people, and LOR has a very large presence. In regards to Expo 2018 versus 2019, X-Lights did step up their game, and at 2019 this year, there were a lot more classes.
So bleeding into Expo like we are, do you see I think we call them the house haunters? Do you see the DIY house haunters bleeding into Christmas Expo from Transworld to either expand into Christmas or vice versa? Because I know some people here are, well, I mean, maybe not us, but we're getting into Halloween. We do have guys that do Halloween. So they're getting ideas from Transworld, carrying that over to possibly Expo. So do you see a Halloween presence at Expo in the next couple of years?
A great question. Yeah, I don't know if I see the same people from Transworld that are in the Halloween space moving over to Expo, but I certainly do see more Halloween things. I think at the end of the day, to be in this hobby, you have to be an entertainer, right? And you have two holidays right next to each other. And a lot of people either start with one or the other, and eventually from the DIY side kind of bleed into the other, just kind of as a natural movement, just because we like to entertain. So, but I don't know if if the people that are going to Transworld for Halloween are necessarily the same people that go to like Expo.
I think that if you can, and that's a great point, but how many people that go to Transworld go to Expo also, and we don't know?
That's a good point. Yeah.
And that's really hard to measure, because Transworld's always had a Christmas part to it that's never been advertised. So they've been at Transworld and done some Christmas at Transworld, but they've never called it a Christmas show. And this was the first year, last year, this year, 2019 was their first year that they actually labeled it. So there hadn't been enough, or they didn't think that there was enough of a draw to bring them in. And I don't know. I don't have any inside information to Transworld, obviously, but the idea for them to pull in more Christmas vendors was so that they could expand on the draw that they had to their gallery. So I think that it's always going to be more focused on commercial, but the DIYers are always going to be interested in what's going on in the commercial land, period, because that's how we as DIYers have figured out what to do next for our shows. How many of you in the room here have gone to Disney World and you saw the lights and you're like, damn, I want to do that. And we did it because we went there and we were inspired by it. So do I think it's a bad thing that DIYers go? Hell no. I think it's a great thing, because on the other side of the coin, that's how things get pushed and moved, and things get better after that.
Yeah, I think it's going to evolve our hobby, seeing what the commercials guys do.
Yeah, it's a really good point about the inspiration side, because the Halloween side was massive, and I think it was James from Boscoya who was saying, just because it's Halloween, you could still apply a lot of the same concepts and ideas just from presentation value, from entertainment value, and still apply it to Christmas even. So there's just a lot to be inspired with there.
Yeah, and Halloween had a ton of interactive stuff. And I know a lot of people are trying to go interactive with Christmas, and they already figured out a lot of the hard stuff in it. And you could just see what they're doing, adapt it for Christmas. That was my big takeaway. It's like their animatronics and their they're engaging their audience more. And I think that's something I really want to do with my display. And I picked up a lot of tips and kind of things I'm going to work towards from seeing it there. Daniel, you have any questions about Transworld before we go fully into Expo?
Yeah. Would you consider Transworld young child friendly?
No.
They have an age limit on entry.
See?
You have to be over, I think it is 13 to be able to go into the vendor hall.
I didn't feel like I was old enough to be in there.
I'm not going to lie.
Well, that's because you're 30 going on 13. 16 or 17.
Right,
there was a part of the Halloween trade show that I did not want to go in.
I agree with that 100%. It is definitely not meant for now. Would young kids love it? There are some diehard, horror fans of kids that are horror fans, and they would go gaga over it, but they would have nightmares, and the parents would not want them there anyway because they would have to deal with that.
That and the fact that there's a lot of props, there's a lot of stuff just out in the aisles and in the vendor hall that, somebody's either going to get hurt or they don't want to play with that stuff. So I could see why there's an age limit.
The part I wouldn't go to, they have this room called the dark room, and it's pitch black. And it's got all kinds of props and shit in there, but I didn't want to go see. I did not.
So we're doing that next year, right?
That's funny because Go ahead, Carl.
I was going to say we're going to do that next year. Right?
I'm dragging him. I'm dragging him into it.
So that's a funny story. That was the last room that we walked through. Rob and I. Well, I was on the way back to the room for something, and I came back, and Rob's like, "Take your time, go walk through." So I did. And I walked through that dark room. I mean, it was pitch black, and all you could see was, the cool stuff. And I mean, it gave it a whole different. Now I'm an adult, but I mean, it was really creepy going through there. So I understand what you're saying. No, I wasn't scared to go through there, but it was definitely like, wow, this is really, really creepy.
I wasn't sure what was in there, so I didn't do it.
At a basketball game where you throw skulls into this thing, and it was moving the hoops around, and so you had to shoot the skulls into the hoops.
That was in the dark room?
Yeah.
See, now
I feel lame that I didn't go. I was worried it was going to be like, oh, check out all this shit that jumps out, and I just didn't want to be scared.
We'll drag you in by the flannel. We got you.
Baked by the flannel.
There was this one guy that made it look like he was moving a mechanical prop, but it was actually a person that jumped out as soon as you walked by.
Oh, God.
And now a word from our sponsors. The Pixel Pro Display Sequence Club is the only club that pays for itself. Here are just some of the benefits of becoming a member. Each month, you will receive a free original sequence programmed by the pros at PPD to take your display to the next level. Access to weekly X-Lights effects presets, which you can use in your own sequences or modify to create your own unique effects library. Access to the PPD affiliate discount program, getting up to 15% off or more from over a dozen of our PPD partners. So visit us on the web today at pixelprodisplays.com and also find us on Facebook at Pixel Pro University. Pixel Pro Displays. What can Pixel Pro Displays do for you?
So I guess it's time to go fully into Expo now. Talk about it.
Definitely the freshest on everyone's mind, right? It just happened. So, so going back to, I guess, start at classes, because that's where my mind's at right now. Is so the expo has like the typical classes, right? And then that's also where my mind is at too, Fireball. And expo we have to get our Fireball.
Get the ad in there.
Anyway, so expo classes. So it's a couple days, right? The whole event, and there's classes going on the whole time. But there's also, what I understand, you kind of mentioned earlier, there's also a whole 2-day all X-Lights focus class that's done by Keith beforehand. I think I heard something about that.
Yeah, that was the immersion class that Keith and Sean and
now is that always kind of something tied into Expo, or is that... So let's go rewind a little bit of X-Lights history. In 2015, let me think.
2015 was the first year that X Lights went to Expo.